and welcome to the Last Looks podcast, a show where we catch up with talented hairstylists and makeup artists in the film and television industry. We'll pick their super creative brains and find out all the good stuff. Join me, your host, Jamie Lee, in finding out what's what in the hair and makeup departments around the world.
Now it's time for Kit Corner, where we shine a spotlight on artists who've created products with the film and television industry in mind. Products designed by artists for artists.
Hi, Alicia.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, good, thank you. So you are a professional makeup artist and you have developed a planner called the Freelancer Makeup Artist Edition. Now, can you tell me exactly what that is and why you created it?
So the Freelancer is actually a day planner for freelance makeup artists. It specifically was made for having a place to keep all of your appointments, all of your financials, like expenses, overhead, what your rate should be at that specific time in your career. It also has a lot of educational business material, resources, and things of that nature to sort of have like back pocket information when you're on the go. It was actually made for makeup artists and hairstylists that work in the freelance realm. So people that are sort of traveling job to job, maybe work on set, editorial, bridal, salon, people that are kind of everywhere and not exactly in one place every day.
That's very cool. And what made you think of creating it?
So the planner was created sort of out of necessity. I had been using a ton of different planners and notebooks and sort of cobbled together like a business ledger in a notebook. I was using like a digital platform to do things like to-do lists and reminders for phone calls. And it was all getting a lot to carry a big kit every day, plus all of these books in my backpack. So I wanted to kind of make a tool that I could share with everyone else that makes my life easier every day and have it all in one bound tool. And I ran it by a couple of other makeup artists and I showed them like sort of what my idea was. And everybody else that I know that works in the freelance realm was super interested. It just sort of grew from there.
And who do you feel would benefit from the Freelancer planner?
All of the educational portions, I would say definitely would be great for student level artists or somebody who's in their first couple of years of the industry, mostly because it focuses completely on business aspects of the business. It's not something that I come across frequently when I'm mentoring younger makeup artists. That's usually the one thing that they are lacking in is basic like business math or business acumen. So all of that business knowledge and all the resources provided will kind of help you elevate all of your basic business acumen, from business math, figuring out your overhead, to, laying out your bills and figuring out how much you need to be charging to actually make enough to be profitable at the end of the year. It's also good for seasoned artists because it'll help you hone in a lot of those financial aspects of things as well. So if you're wanting to elevate yourself financially and learn how to save better, or, if you need to go back over things like set etiquette, if you don't necessarily work on a film set all of the time, maybe you're working mostly bridal, but you take a commercial. So all of those things might even be great refreshers for vetted artists. So I would say it's basically the gamut for everybody that works in the freelance realm that does makeup and hair.
What other resources does the Freelancer offer to the hair and makeup community?
So on the website, themakeupartistplanner.com, there's a drop-down resource tab where you can find a full calendar of all online education that I've come across. So these are classes anywhere from like hair coloring to hair styling to basic beauty techniques, bridal classes, business acumen classes. There's been some really great drag makeup classes that have popped up. So I've created sort of a calendar on the website for you to kind of go in and figure out which classes you want to take on what day. There's link through to registrations for all of those classes. When the pandemic hit, I had also added a tab for COVID resources. So nonprofit organizations that were offering funding for small businesses and specifically freelancers to basically apply for funding.
That's a lot of work for you to do, I would imagine. But it's so great that you keep it updated, and it's just that one stop for someone who's interested in all those subjects to kind of go to instead of scouring the internet themselves. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And where can people who want to to beautifully organize their lives purchase the Freelancer?
So you can find it on themakeupartistplanner.com. And right now for Last Looks listeners, we are offering a 10% discount. It's discount code Last Looks, all capital letters.
Oh, that's so cool. Brilliant. Thank you, Alicia.
Yeah, thank you.
Today I'm speaking with Flora Moody, personal hairstylist and makeup artist for Daisy Ridley on the films The Last Jedi and Rise of the Skywalker. We chat about what it's like to be a personal, work on iconic film sets, and what other exciting projects she's recently done.
Pictures up.
Last looks. Rolling.
And action.
Hi, Flora. Welcome to the Last Looks podcast.
Hi. Thank you very much for having me. It's very
You're
formal.
Of course. So today I'd love to chat to you about your work with Daisy Ridley. Now, Daisy plays the character Rey in the latest Star Wars saga. You were the one doing her hair and makeup for The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker. Let's start with, how did you first become involved with the Star Wars films?
Well, I was the key on The Last Jedi. So that means that I was hired by Peter King, who was the hair and makeup designer, and I was his kind of right-hand person. And then you've got hair and makeup artists underneath the key, and then below them juniors, and then trainees. And that kind of makes up the hair and makeup team. So Peter gave me a call and said that he had the Star Wars film and asked if I'd be his key. And I was obviously like, yes, please count me in. And it was incredible. We had 6 months prep, which is huge.
What?
Yeah.
That's unheard of.
I know. And I don't know if it'll ever happen again. We had 6 months prep, which was a very lovely time, having that much time and space to create things and research. Yeah, it was an amazing job to be involved in. And then we shot for 6 months, so it was a year-long job, which is pretty mega to be employed properly for a whole year.
So were you a Star Wars fan to start with? Obviously by the reaction of, yes, I want this job, I would think that you were reasonably fond of Star Wars.
Yeah, we had grown up having watched them. It wasn't like a sort of religious thing in any way. Like, I wouldn't say I was a fan. Like, if someone said, "Oh, are you an Indiana Jones fan?" I'd be like, yes, in the way that I've watched them as a kid and they're kind of a childhood movie, or the Goonies. It's kind of, I know that the Star Wars were before that, but they were kind of, very much a part of the movies that we watched as a kid, and lightsabers and the noises and, so I guess I had a bit more knowledge than people that maybe definitely weren't fans. Like when you see R2-D2 on set, it's like, oh my God, there's R2-D2. So there was definitely still an element of like, oh my God, I'm in the Millennium Falcon. But
Lady, stop showing off.
But this is where people are going to be like, she's a mega geek. But I wasn't. But it was really cool. You can't be a part of that kind of film and be not cynical, but you can't be to walk onto a Star Wars film set and not get a sense of wow and the history and how it's an amazing film to be a part of. And if I were to walk on set and be like, I was never into these films, then that's kind of a bit dicky. You've got to appreciate that it's a mega thing that's happening. So yeah, for me it was I wasn't a fan, but working on them, you really appreciate how big they are. And also there are so many pinch me moments where you're like, this is so cool. So yeah, I've got a big love for those years that I've spent working on the films. I'm very grateful for Peter for bringing me along for the ride.
So you were key on the first one, and then it's not the first of the three, the trilogy that you with us. Yeah, and then the following film, The Rise of Skywalker. You were on as Daisy's personal.
Yes. Yeah, so after we shot Star Wars 8, Daisy got a call for Ophelia, which was shooting in Prague, and asked if I wanted to come along as her personal, which I said yes to. I was like, that'd be amazing. So we went off and shot for about 3-4 months in Prague.
I love Prague.
Oh, I love Prague. It's such a cool...
I think everybody does.
It's such a cool city. Did you ever go to Bottega on Deloha Street, the amazing coffee shop and restaurant?
Oh my goodness. I know, it was so long ago. It was like 5 years ago. So, and I don't drink coffee, ladies, so maybe not.
Okay. Just the best coffee in the whole world. I loved it. I've got such fond memories. And the crew in Prague are just so cool. Like, big shout out to the crew in Prague. They're so cool. Anyway, we went from there, and then we went straight away, pretty much like a couple of weeks break in between, out to Canada and shot Chaos Walking, directed by Doug Lyman, and which has yet to be released, which is very sad, but I believe it'll be coming out soon. And
waiting patiently.
And then after that, I think actually after Star Wars 8, I did Darkest Hour, and then did Ophelia, and then did Chaos Walking. And then after that, I worked on The King, the Netflix film with lovely Alessandro Bertolazzi and Timothée Chalamet. And then Star Wars started, the number 9. And I went on as Daisy's personal on that one, which is brilliant and a lot of fun.
So what, as you said before, with these pinch me moments of being on set, what were some of them that kind of stood out for you?
I think walking on and seeing R2-D2 was pretty amazing. And the Millennium Falcon, even doing the camera tests, we had, camera tests happen, as you know, like however soon before we start filming. And we had different character and actor camera tests where for a certain role, they might get 2 or 3 actors in and do tests with them. And they even, then the first bit of set that I came across was the ramp of the Millennium Falcon. And all it was like a big wooden box that was slightly clad in, a bit of Millennium Falcon, but the ramp came down and they had the smoke and the lights. And I remember thinking, oh my God, it's the ramp. And it didn't go anywhere. It just went up to a green screen. But that was cool. R2-D2. Just, C-3PO. On the last one, we were shooting, one of the last things we shot out in Jordan was when Rey returns to Tatooine and buries the 2 lightsabers. And it was kind of sunset or sunrise? Yeah, it was sunset. And we were shooting there was Luke's family dome, that domey house thing. And in the background, second unit was shooting like little snippets of, this is where I show why I'm not a geek. The little with the red eyes. The little...
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what they're called.
What are they called? The little, they squeak.
Yeah.
So they
steal all your stuff.
Exactly. They were in the background.
Like little scavengers.
And I think they were dancing around a fire or something. But so to be standing there on this incredible, desert with mountains in the background, the sun was setting, you had crew behind you. These little things were dancing around a fire in the distance. And you think, this is amazing. And I think at that point as well, a rainbow came out, like out of nowhere. So
stop it.
Yeah, everyone, I'm not even joking. I'll send you the picture. So everyone's taking these photos and security are kind of like having a bit of a fit because people are like, this is iconic. And you can't, you couldn't make this up. But, that's really cool standing there. And we replicated that set in the backlot of Pinewood. And again, you you look at it from the outside and it just looks like a big cylinder of scaffolding, but you climb the scaffolding up sort of 40, 50 feet and then realize that they've made a big bowl in the middle and it's full of sand. And at the bottom of the bowl is Luke Skywalker's house, with the little aerial and his, where they sat at the table. And I don't know, I think it's kind of sets. It's the set, in the Millennium Falcon, the table where they play the chess game. So
it's so recognizable to you, isn't it?
It's kind of again, that word iconic, which got thrown around so much. When you're working on the film, people are like, we want it to look iconic. And you're like, oh, what does this mean? Iconic's been done so many times. Find that iconic. The word iconic is, I think, gives me slight shivers because it's quite a hard one to work from. Like, do something that no one's done before and make it look unique to this project is hard. A hard one to follow.
Yeah, absolutely. So, what were some of the locations that you were shooting at? So you mentioned Jordan and then England.
Oh, do you know that's
where else did you?
That was
it?
Yeah, we shot in Pinewood and Jordan.
Okay.
I know. Disappointing.
That was for both films?
The first film we shot in Ireland.
Okay.
Which again was pretty mega. We didn't go to all the sort of hugely exotic locations that you think you might. I think the thing that's changed now is you can replicate anywhere in front of a green screen.
Yeah.
So there's no need to suddenly go to a beach in Hawaii when you can put a bit of beach and sand on the floor and then chuck Hawaiian in the background. It's slightly disappointing.
just pretend you're there.
Yeah. Or you get that thing where at the end of a movie, they're like, okay, the plate and aerial unit are going to be going too. And they kind of reel off these amazing locations where basically a group of people go off and have a field day, just kind of filming, establishing shots, and then cut to the rest of the crew in a studio.
Like, I'm in the wrong department. Can I just switch over?
Yeah. I always wanted to be a helicopter pilot. Can I do aerial?
That's awesome. So when you stepped in to look after Daisy, that character had already been established in the first of that trilogy, right? So were there many changes that you made when you stepped into that?
No, we literally copied what Amanda Knight and Lisa Tomlin looked after. They designed the first Star Wars and they looked after Daisy. Yeah. So we literally copied their design. So they did the first design of Daisy with the iconic buns, the 3 buns at the back.
Yeah.
And so we copied that, and kind of 2/3 of the way through, Daisy falls into a big cave, and then those fall out, and then she kind of ends up with a half up, half down do for her final fight in episode 8. And when we came back to film episode 9, the word on the street, or the word from up above, which that means producers, that means director, that means America, that means studio. They're kind of these just people that are on a cloud up high who kind of tell you things. And they said they wanted to revert to the 3 buns. I was a bit, if I'm honest, I was a bit disappointed because there was such an opportunity to create something really cool. Not really cool because the buns are amazing, but they've been done for 1.5 movies, 2 movies. So why not for the 3rd one? And she, Daisy's new costume was the white instead of gray, and it felt like that character had evolved and become something more than the nervous scavenger that she was at the beginning. So I kind of pushed slightly just to have a few things camera tested, just to see, because there's no harm in trying. And if they said yes, then that's great. And if they didn't, then that would go back to what they were after in the first place. So we camera tested I did a lot of playing around with variations of, thinking there's so many things to think about. So silhouette is huge.
Yeah, I think that's it seems what they kind of hold on to, isn't it? Like the silhouette of the characters are recognizable.
Yeah, it's a strong shape. So, Princess Leia's buns, they're very strong and silhouette and iconic. And so I thought, well, if they really love the 3 buns, why don't we keep the trio a thing? And, just played with, I had a few wigs that I played with on wig blocks and took pictures, and slowly out of that, over a couple of weeks, kind of forms started coming about, and we had Daisy in for tests just between her and I. So we played with different shapes and what suited her face, and if she was doing a lot more physical work, she didn't want hair flying around, and then we tested 4 different looks, and we Daisy and I really liked one, so we did sort of one that was really kooky that we nicknamed the Teapot, which was like a big figure of 8 on the back of her head with a ponytail, which we knew they wouldn't go for because it was just too sci-fi. And then we did sort of 3 ponytails with added hair, so when she fought it would flick around. And then we slowly started moving towards what we were kind of after, which just got more and more refined. So the 3 buns became balls, and then figuring out how to make the hair fit around the balls. And at first it was the 3 balls, and then she had a ponytail coming off the back of that. And then the more we played with it, we lost the ponytail, and Kathy Kennedy and JJ Abrams were said, the ponytail, let's lose the ponytail. And so we took that out, and then suddenly kind of there it was the same but different. So keeping a nod to the first film and what made her hairstyle so replicated by kids and by cosplay people everywhere. It suddenly had a similar thing that still had that really strong silhouette, but was just a little bit more elegant and grown up. Also, another big thing that you have to keep in mind when you're doing stuff like that is that for Star Wars and for those kind of films, merchandising is huge. So you've got to think, how can they create a doll out of this? A doll with kind of a long mass of flowing brown hair isn't as instantly recognizable as a doll with 3 balls on the back of her head. So
yeah. And was it all Daisy's hair, or did you have some pieces that you were using to help get that shape?
It was for episode 8 with the buns. We had back pieces, so we had a sort of waterfall pinned into the back of her head. And then for this one, actually, Daisy's hair was long enough that I could use her own hair and do it. So
that's awesome.
They are donuts. So you get these hair donuts. So I unraveled the hair donuts and then sewed them back together in the shape of the balls. And then they are wrapped in kind of crepe hair to give her hair something to grip onto. And then they're just sort of placed underneath the hair and in the ponytails. And then they're light, and if she falls on them, they're squashy if she's doing stunts. So luckily we didn't have to use any extra hair, which is great.
Yeah, that's awesome. So were you taking care of the stunt doubles as well? Or because I know different personals, they work differently with taking care of, they only pay attention to the talent, a cast member, and might oversee stunts or just not even have anything to do with stunts, or are quite heavily involved in getting the stunts ready and making sure they're all okay. So how did you work with that?
I would usually, if I were personal to someone, I would usually love to be involved with the stunts and the doubles as much as I can be. So on Chaos Walking, I had 3 wigs, I think, and for Ophelia. So I had 3 wigs, and I would prep one for the stunt or the double, and then someone else would apply the wig because I'd be working with Daisy or could be on a different unit. When I worked with Amanda and Lisa, they were incredible, and Lisa, who was the hair HOD, actually had already sort of started the ball rolling with the stunts and the doubles. And so we chatted, and she was like, I can suck this up for you if you'd like. And I was like, do you know what? That would be amazing. So we came to a sort of mutual agreement that if it's okay, then if she wouldn't mind looking after them, that would be great. But I'd never want to push, I'd never assume that someone else is going to look after the stunts and doubles, because ultimately you want the stunts and doubles to look exactly like your character. But often the stunts might be working on a second unit, so you can't get to them, or it would mean that you would be coming in so early to look after doubles and put wigs on, and then looking after your actor that your day is so long, like too long, that you would actually get pulled up, by the money man, and asked if there's any other way that could be worked out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So for the character Ray, I'm assuming Daisy didn't do all her stunts. She had the stunt doubles.
No, Daisy did so many of her stunts. She did? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Daisy did pretty much 100% of her stunts. She had, again, my brain is going to go blank at this point, but she had some incredible stunt doubles, like a sort of one main stunt double on each film. But for the most part, Daisy did like pretty much like 99% of her own stunts.
That's awesome. Were you lucky enough to have a stunt double for her that had similar coloured hair and everything, or did you need to wig them?
I think Katie O'Donnell was her stunt double on episode 9, and she's a parkour free runner, and she had, I believe, she had a wig. She was wigged. Okay. But I think there was she did in the trailer, there's the bit where they flip, like Daisy does a flip over Kylo Ren's little spaceship. He's flying towards her, and she does a flip over. So we shot that in obviously in Jordan, in Wadi Rum, and Katie and Daisy were both hooked up to the wire rig, and it was just decided then that the way that Katie had to do the flip, it's actually quite dangerous, the land, and if you land it wrong, then your ankle is out. So I think that was the one thing but Daisy did it as well, because they needed elements of Daisy up in the air doing the flip. So it was very much a work together between stunts and Daisy. But they, not to say that Daisy's stunt is, she does all the work and all the training, but that's just awesome. At the same time, Daisy is kick-ass when it comes to all the fight sequences and like her movements and her choreography. It's mega. But the stunt team themselves are so cool too. Eunice is the head of stunts. Have you ever worked with Eunice?
I haven't.
She's so cool. She's from Liverpool.
Yeah.
She's so cool. I would do a Liverpudlian accent, but I'm not going to.
It's nice that you've had that communication with heads of department to come up with a plan that everybody's comfortable with the stunts and stuff like that. Because I know on one job that I did, I was told by the head of department when I was a personal for somebody that the stunts weren't my concern.
Oh.
And I was like, I don't quite understand where you're coming from, because currently I have my actor asking me what the hell is going on with that stunt person's hair. And I'm like, let me try and deal with that, because I saw it too. I clocked it and was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
And, just gently kind of easing into, if you want to drop the wig off at the end of the night, I'll set it and prep it and then go over with whoever the person is that you have doing it. And she was like, someone different does it every day.
And you're like, no,
I was like, okay,
no shit.
And it was tricky. So I was...
name and shame, Jamie Lee. Name and shame.
No way. Lady, stop. Just appreciate that, just being grown-ups and not having control issues and being able to just kind of work out what's going to be best for the job and how it's going to end up looking.
Oh my gosh. I think the thing I really can't stand in our industry is ego. I think ego is a very uncool and ugly trait.
Yeah.
And so, I've always tried to maintain and clock along the way, you know, throughout being a trainee and a junior and then working your way up the ladder, just really making a mental note of how you don't want to end up. And seeing personals as a hair and makeup artist and stuff and thinking, wow, you're being so disrespectful to the designer by, you know, having zero contact and, I don't know, throwing them a wig and saying, oh no, I don't have any continuity for that scene, but make it work. I just think, you know, there comes a time where there is the potential to become quite lazy in the industry if you allow yourself to, and, you know, to sort of not pick up responsibility that ultimately is yours. And I think we are getting better at it. And I always kind of hope that our generation, and it's not in any way everyone, but it's just a mental note that I had that I never wanted to be that person that kind of slack or was seen to slack and get away with it because you can get away with it. I don't think that's cool at all.
I find that interesting that you're saying that, because I think it's also, there's a sadness to it that I as well, coming up, would view behavior that other people were doing and be like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to do that. That's how I'm going to do it. Yeah. Because that's not nice. It's not, you know, and it's a shame that I think I came across that more than, wow, that person's doing it amazingly, I want to be like them. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It's that's a bummer. But thank goodness those people were there to demonstrate, you know, either ego or just being impolite or just nasty, or you're like,
Who would be, am I allowed to turn this round on you now? Who would be your kind of figure, or not role model, I don't say, but who, do you have a few people that you really look up to in the industry that you've worked with?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
are you going to say? Yes, I do. End of conversation. Wow, great chat, Jamie Lee. Cool.
No, I was just thinking, well, I think I always appreciated, and I was telling Peter about this the other day when I was chatting to him, that his just openness for sharing his knowledge, which I was always so amazing. Yeah. He never kind of turned around to me and was just, you know, he never said, what are you, stupid? Do you not know how to do this? He would always share how everything was done and tell me why he did it that way, and I just found it really helpful. I mean, he just taught me so much about wigs, and it was amazing. I think I maybe didn't appreciate it as much at the time because I hadn't come across anyone that was guarded and didn't want to share what they knew, and have over time come across people who just don't want to give up. You know, they don't want to help you out.
And what is that kind of, I'm threatened by your, like, just...
I don't know what it is. So I really appreciated that with him. And also I got to the point where I saw how he always hires incredible artists and isn't threatened by them to make the best team possible. So he gets the best outcome. Yeah. And I think it's a good way to work. Yeah. I mean,
no, I agree. I think that's something I've taken away too. You're never a one-man band, and it's amazing you should never think that. And you are only as strong as the team that you have around you. And no one should ever think that they are the best at anything. Like, I totally have like strengths and weaknesses. But I would get a team together, or try to kind of, you know, create one unit instead of, like, I'm not a colorist. I would never put my hand up and be like, sure, I'll color your hair. So I'd make sure that on the job I'm on at the minute, I got a kick-ass colorist in San Francisco. And same when we shift over to Berlin, because that's not something I can offer. And to be, you know, to think that you can, or to bullshit your way that you can, I think is only, I see kind of strength in honesty, I think.
Yeah, me too.
Instead of the other way around. So many people are scared of being honest.
Yeah. I think that was one of the pieces of advice I took away from when I went and did my makeup course all those years ago. And the tutor said to me, if anybody asks you if you can do something and you don't know how to do it, or you don't feel confident with it, you need to give an honest answer, because there's nothing worse than you going, yeah, I can do it.
Yeah.
And then the result is a disaster.
Yeah.
And then they turn around and go, I thought you had this handled.
Yeah.
No, just be honest.
I do think, though, there is a time where to be able to, I don't want to say to be able to bullshit, but there's a difference between having the confidence to potentially try something and see it through.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that is something that I think is really hard to, it's like you've come to a river that's just anxiety in front of you, and you're like, do I cross the river, or do I put my hand up and say, I can't do this? And I think small baby steps will more often than not get you across the river, because if you just think laterally and work it out in your head and take baby steps and don't gung-ho your way into it, then and if you can, we're all artists at the end of the day. It's shape and form and precision, and if you just kind of work as you work as an artist, I think you can usually achieve a lot, especially if you're pulling in other people to help out.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I think, but to say no to something, I can't do it, then that's a waste, because you're not going to grow as a person. God, we're saying some really amazingly profound things.
Lady, you're so deep. I can't handle it.
I can't wait to listen to this back and be inspired.
You have to come out with a book, like The Day I Inspired Myself.
Chapter 1, I can't help but be inspired by myself.
Yeah. I'm going to circle back around now, and I'm going to ask about shooting over such a long period of time with Daisy, and you kind of doing the no makeup look. Mm-hmm. I'm guessing that skincare was pretty important while shooting and doing those hours. So how did you tackle all of that to keep her skin looking?
Well, luckily Daisy has amazing skin anyway. And she looks after herself and works out and uses incredible skincare products. And she is a vegan. So, there's not a great deal of toxins in there. It's not, I was in no way, dealing with a person who digs a bottle of wine every night. So skincare, I think it's important to find the skincare range that works for you, a bit like, hair care. And once you find it, kind of keep hold of it. So we have, there's an amazing shout out to Jo at Skin Matters in Notting Hill. So Daisy and I are both a massive fan of Jo. She's brilliant. So kind of regular facials, and Jo pushes and loves using the Environ skincare range. Which works really well with Daisy's skin. And we would occasionally kind of throw in, if I find, I love Emma Hardy, they're an amazing skincare. And, I would use, so as well as what Daisy uses at home, so the regular things, I then am able to sort of, use a Oskia skincare or a Barbara Stern SPF drops, sun drops. So, but then we might use an eye patch that doesn't quite work, or it's too jelly-like, or so it's a sort of, we're playing with it the whole time just to see what is liked by the skin. I've definitely got some favorites that work amazingly. And I think the dewy thing is always going to help anyone's skin. As soon as you lose any form of powder, I think that, especially with what we're filming quite a realistic film. You don't want Daisy to look like she's got powder or eyeliner on her face, because you would instantly be brought out of what you're watching. So we kind of had it down to a T. It's that funny thing of people are like, oh my gosh, there's no makeup, but then you're like, here's the list of what we put on, but it's not thrown on in a caked way. You just use it sparingly.
Yeah.
It always helps when when your actor or your actress that you're looking after has an amazing canvas to work from. Then anything you add, any addition to it is only going to work, especially if you can find the right product.
So, I mean, there is an art to doing a makeup like that, isn't there? How do you just deal with doing such subtle, soft makeup that doesn't look like she's actually wearing anything? How do you tackle that?
I think not to cake it on. I mean, I watch, everyone watches these YouTube and Instagram, and I'm amazed at how much makeup some people get away with wearing. And I would love to see that makeup in the flesh, because I think it's like someone was talking about the Kardashian makeup, and I was like, but you never really see them smile. And I'd be so interested to see one of them smile, like properly smile, like, because that amount of concealer underneath the eye for most people just doesn't work, because everyone creases under the eye when they smile. So I would love to know what it looks like, but maybe that's the thing, that there isn't that much movement there. So,
well, maybe you need to do a little test on yourself, lady.
I know.
And today,
no, because I think I'm your typical white girl. So underneath the eye is not. That is not, Persian flawlessness. So, but with working with Daisy, it's just about less is more. So you can have a ton of products. We had a primer, SPF, sun drops by Terry, and then foundation, but it's put on kind of just feathery, I guess is the word. Yeah. So it's not caked on. I'm not slapping it on, and just used where the natural colors of the skin might, like blusher, put where Daisy might naturally, the character might naturally flush. So even on the nose and the forehead and the chin and the chest. So it's kind of creating natural, you're recreating the skin on top of someone's skin, and we flicked freckles. So we flicked about 3 different colors of freckles, again, to break up what I'd already put on there. And we kept the shadow, the eyeliner, like really close to it was smudged. And so, just subtle, I guess. Fine and subtle.
Yeah. She looks beautiful. I'm guessing, is that a little easier to maintain, do you think, throughout a day, especially with action and stuff like that?
Again, Daisy's makeup doesn't move. #blessed.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were you doing all day, Flora?
Hello, crafty. No, it's apart from, a bit of, concealer if needed after lunch, or a touch more blusher. There was never we need half an hour, because it is so natural, and the I spray over the top. So Daisy always had, I mix up like a Moravica, the Hungarian mist, facial mist. So I mix that up with a little bit of rose water and a tiny bit of glycerin in there. And then I use that as a spritz, like a sweat spritz.
Oh, nice. I bet that smells good.
Yeah. So just so I'm not going in there with a stipple sponge and glycerin on the back of my hand and it's dripping down into the eyes. Yeah. This is a kind of overall glow. And then if during a fight we could get it into the hair, and then I push the hair down onto the face. And so I think that helped too in keeping the face hydrated throughout the day and kind of locked. It just didn't move. But yeah, Daisy nothing moves off her face, which is amazing.
Now, when you were doing Ophelia with her, that wig was a situation. How was dealing with, because it's pretty long, right?
Yeah, that was how was that? That was my baby. It was amazing. Those wigs, they were made by Peter Owen, so where I can, they're always very much in demand, especially because Peter King uses them. So Peter Owen wigs are incredible. I just asked for, the longest red wig, auburn wig that they could possibly make. And we talk about, you go along and you visit Peter Owen, he's in Bristol, and talk through kind of pre-curl. So do you want the hair straight? How much pre-curl do you want in it? So that's when you leave it wet and leave it overnight to dry. It has a natural wave put in it. So
yeah, those waves are beautiful.
Oh, it was such a lovely wig to work from. I had 3 of them, and saying goodbye to them at the end of the movie was a bit weird because I actually felt I'd spent so much time with them. Like, even at weekends, I had all 3 of them lined up on my kitchen table because I'd take them home with me and just to wash and get them set instead of sitting on my own on a Friday night. Yeah, they were just beautiful. The hairlines were incredible. They were a bitch to clean and wash. And this is where one of my favorite, bone comb. No one can live without a bone comb, right? So washing them and dressing them was like time consuming, but worth it. It was really lovely. And again, Daisy has one of those complexions that can kind of pull off any hair color. So she can be dark, red, blonde. So she was redhead in Ophelia, blonde in Chaos Walking, her own natural kind of dark brown in Star Wars. So she definitely can jump around the color palette in terms of wigs and hair color.
That's fun.
Yeah.
With that amount of length that she had with that wig, did she take that on pretty quickly and could wrangle it herself? Like, has she had hair that long in her life?
No, I don't think so.
But she owned it?
Owned it, yeah. And that, I think, I don't want to speak potentially. I'm going to say I think that was one of the first wigs that Daisy had worn, like for a film. But again, if I'm wrong, I apologize. No, she was amazing. But I had said, just treat it just like your own hair, just fling it around, play with it, like put it behind your ear. If it's in your face, wipe it out the way. Because there's nothing worse than knowing someone's in a wig and there's hair falling over their face and they're not touching it, or they're touching it, but with like a flat hand, trying to just push it away from their forehead. Dead
I
giveaway.
don't want to break it.
yes. It's in my face. And also, a trick that we had picked up, obviously from, do you remember, Turiel on in The Hobbit? So her long red wig, I remember, and any elf with long hair, the knack of putting it in a stocking and pinning it so it didn't get all tangled. We used that a lot.
Yeah, and didn't leave a mark as well.
Exactly. But for the most part, it wasn't meant to look like a very pristine wig, so it was I could kind of let it do its thing and it would just fall into place.
I think having that talk with her as well is so important, to just be like, once it's on your head, it's your hair. Like, do with it what you need to. Don't be scared to to touch it. Own it.
It's not like it's hairsprayed into place. It was very much a natural wig, and so I guess it felt very natural. And the Peter Owen wigs, like it fit like a glove, and we'd done a fresh wig wrap on Daisy after Star Wars, so it fit her head perfectly. And I think as well as if you can make it look really realistic, then the actor, whenever they go out onto set and people give them positive feedback, like, wow, that looks like your hair, then that instantly makes them feel comfortable in it. It's not like they're wearing a weird wig that looks so wiggy and they feel a bit self-conscious and a bit. If you can kind of trick people into thinking that, well, everyone knew that it was a wig because she obviously doesn't have that hair. But we had, when we did Darkest Hour, working under Ivana Primorac as her key. And that was amazing. It was such a... like I spent every day being a sponge to Ivana's kind of wig knowledge and how she works with the wigs and hair. And we would everyone had a wig on or a toupee, and it was amazing. By the end of the film, even at the very end, I was speaking to the focus puller, and we were talking about Sam West, who plays in Darkest Hour. And I was like, he's in a toupee. And he's like, no, he's not. And it was so lovely. And Ivana's whole a thing was, it's great if someone can come to set and even the crew who've been talking and interacting don't clock that it's a wig.
Yeah.
That's when when people can look at a hairline and not see where the wig starts and finishes, and make it believable. Then if the crew believe it, then obviously it's going to look great on camera, or it's sold on camera. But
absolutely,
yeah, nothing more satisfying than having crew kind of not realizing who's in a wig and who isn't.
Yeah, I had that happen recently, and it was like halfway through shooting, and the actor was working with a bunch of young guys who, don't know anything about wigs or whatever, but all I could hear from, like, I'm at the monitor and on set, and one of them's like, "What? You're wearing a wig?
Yeah.
You've been wearing a wig this whole time?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, I didn't even notice."
But then do you have the flip side of it when you're like, but if everyone could realize how much work I'm putting into this, that would be great.
Well, I wondered what they thought I was doing every time I went into, like, adjust stuff. It's just like, well, did you think I was what did you think I was doing?
But it's amazing that you just, even crew members, you just don't really clock, do you? You don't clock how much work. Like, we're equally as bad, I think, for, oh my gosh, you've been in since what time? What? Oh, all of, all the little bits that you think, that just got thrown together. And then when you ask about the input that's gone into it, it's huge.
Yeah. I think you can walk around thinking that you're the only one who's spending hours and hours doing things. But it's like, oh no, there's an entire crew doing the exact same thing.
Yeah. There's a reason why we've all turned up with chairs. We've been here longer than all of you. Yeah. So there was a picture the other day on Facebook. You know how, have you come across the new, like, movie Facebook page, Movie Memories or something?
I don't think so.
Oh, I'll send it your way. But there was a picture of that a makeup artist, I think, put up, and it was her back in the day, like maybe 80s, and she's on set with her set bag, a chair, and a newspaper.
This is funny because when I was coming up, there was no sitting down.
Yeah.
Like, I did not purchase a seat until on The Hobbit, and it wasn't even then, it wasn't like a full chair, and I still have never owned one of those big massive fold out chairs with the little table that comes up, because I'm like, I just can't bring myself to do it. So I'm always trying to find the smaller little situations. But I think the first, it was like a stool, one of those like little saddle triangle stools, and it was the first time a lot of Kiwis had like sat down at the monitor.
Yeah.
And we were always carrying, like, it was that thing too, that it was like you didn't want to put your set bag down. Yeah. So you would have these bags on your shoulder all day and not sit down. Yeah. Not put your bag down, because someone might call you and you need to rush in to do something. Yeah. And it's like, I have to say, I'm glad that has relaxed a little. But then, I mean, I came to LA and everyone's got nice big chairs, and I'm like, I'm just going to sit in your chair for a little minute.
Yeah. I'm just going to steal this apple box. But I would say on The Hobbit, the reason why we could sit down is because how many of us were there looking after how many dwarves?
No, but a lot.
Yeah. Do you remember when we would all turn up? Oh my gosh. And there was like huge black screens put in the way of us and the rest of the crew. Do you remember that? Because we would come like as hair, makeup, prosthetics, armory, costume, like it was almost double the crew again with the dwarves.
It was insane. When we first started, I think for the first, even the first month, I was dreaming about the dwarves, that they
facial
were
hair
through my room. It was just because they were such a massive presence. I mean, when we were all clambering around, like when they were getting their final bits of costume on and stuff like that, and we were putting moustaches on or whatever was happening, they were so big because they had the fat suits and then their costume and then their weapons and stuff. Like Graham would turn around and just about hit people with his axes on the back of his, they're just these huge guys, and they'd normally give us not a great amount of space to get them ready on set, and we'd all just be kind of like shimmying in between all these.
Who did you look after again?
Doris or Dory.
Oh yeah.
Mark Hadlow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Who was your guy?
I looked after lovely Oin for the first,
Oh, yeah.
and then moved on to Gloin.
As you do.
As you do.
Keep in the family.
I think it was Oin for whatever. God, I can't really. You know, when we were traveling around the place. Lovely John Callan, and then came back in January, and I think for the third stint it was Peter Hambledon.
Awesome.
Yeah, good memories.
Oh yeah, the Redheads Unite. Wasn't Rachel doing his makeup?
Yeah, Team Gloin.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, what do you find to be like the pros and cons of working as a personal opposed to being a key or an HOD?
I think they both come with their individual pros and cons. It can be really lovely just focusing on one person and putting all your energy and your eye into one person, especially if that one person potentially isn't in the film that much, but you get paid for the whole film. That's always a bonus. Yeah. But again, the con of that is that for like Daisy was in every single day on Star Wars, which is amazing. And I wouldn't have it any other way. But, you know, you might then have another personal who's on the same film, but who is in once a week, but you know, they're kind of financially on the same. It's kind of pros and cons. And then if you're a designer, there's something amazing about being able to design a whole look of a film and know that kind of you've put into play all the little nuances, and you know, you put that little element into that character and that element over there, and to see it all come together as one look, I think it's very satisfying. And I kind of, it's cool as well. Someone once told me that you can't control everything as a designer, and I think it was someone who was running crowd. And so you put out your look and you show your mood boards and, you know, what kind of thing you're looking to create. And then you can only just kind of let it go and see because everyone's got such an individual eye that they will create something amazing too. And then it all comes back together and, you know, it's all under your bubble, your design, as it were, but it's different from the idea that you put out because other people have had creative input too. I think that's really special.
Yeah, that is exciting. There's been times when I've just kind of looked over a crowd and been like, oh, that's awesome. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's amazing. Yay, I'm glad that person's here today.
and then flip side of it is, what the fuck is that?
What just happened? Okay, let's make you fix this. That's great.
So I think pros and cons, totally pros and cons. And sometimes it's lovely being on set all the time if you're a personal, and other times it's really nice taking a bit of a back step and kind of being on the bus and dealing with more of the creative side. So I think it depends on every movie. I think every movie can be so different. But so far I've been lucky enough to kind of test both sides of it, and it's been I wouldn't pick one over the other. It'd be great if you could just keep on doing, you know, both. Fingers crossed, touch wood.
Yeah, I think there's room for that.
Yeah,
surely.
Yeah.
And what job have you just been doing? Because you mentioned San Francisco and Berlin. So
I'm working on The Matrix at the minute, Matrix 4, which oh my gosh, is amazing. Oh, it's so cool. It's so cool. Well, to be honest, it was pretty well documented, all our exterior shooting in San Francisco. Yeah. Because we were out there, we did 7 weeks of kind of night shoots in San Francisco on the streets, blowing stuff up and doing exterior and kind of interior scenes. And oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's so cool. Again, I had some serious kind of pinch me moments because it's the first time I've worked with Lana and their team, but they're so welcoming, and so it's really like a family. Like there's a real family vibe and everyone gets on, and there are people there who are very proud of the fact that, you know, they have been doing films with Lana for years. There's a real sense of camaraderie, which is really cool. And there's not a great deal of judgment. It's very accepting. It's an amazing environment to work in, where not if you fuck up, you won't be, trailed through the mud, I think.
Yeah.
And again, honesty is the best policy. And if you put your hand up and go, do you know what? I've drawn a blank. Leave it with me for a little bit. I'll come back to you. Yeah. That's not like, oh, okay. Yeah, I found it an amazing, safe environment, but also hugely creative, and everyone chipping in. That's amazing. On this, it was great. Like at one point, we had just had a massive gunfight, and there were all the shells all over the street. And it was the middle of the night. I think it was about 3:00. The Ben and Jerry's van had come round, so there was ice cream at 3:00 in the morning. So it's all quite weird. People are eating ice cream, a car's on fire over there, a helicopter's just flown off. There's a drone still hovering. And then these guys were using these really cool cages on sticks that roll, and they were rolling them over the bullet shells. And so I was helping them clear up all the bullets, and I was like, this is so surreal. Like, I'm eating an ice cream, it's 3:00, I'm in San Francisco, and I'm cleaning up bullet shells and surrounded by like military Humvees, and it's amazing. Again, it's going back to that thing that we've been so lucky to work on, like iconic, like Hobbit movie and Star Wars, and then Matrix. It's just like, oh my gosh, like how do you? Every time I think I've peaked, I find my brain kind of going, whoa, again. And that's what's so lovely. It's never dull.
I love it. Hey, I wanted to ask you, you've got a little side hustle going on. Do you want to tell me about Flora's Fleet?
Certainly. Yes, I will. I will pimp that project, please. Yeah, I'm a big believer in trying to have fingers in all the pies. Because if you rely on one job, especially our job, there are times where you might not have any work for months, or you've just finished a job, or I don't know, coronavirus hits and everyone is out of work. So not that this in this case it has helped, but I was like, what do we use in the hair and makeup industry is a necessity and doesn't come as part of your kit. So I was like, wig ovens. So I've sourced their old-fashioned 1960s clothes dryers from all over England, and had them shipped down to London, and Pat tested them, cleaned them up, and then set up a wig oven rental company. So if anyone needs a wig oven, Flora's Fleet is the place to go to.
That's awesome. Yeah, they can just find that on social media.
Yeah, just get in touch with you. Yeah, social media. It's just through me. So it's like a little number on the side.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And, who would you like to hear on this podcast?
I thought about this. And is it just hair and makeup?
It is.
For the time being.
For the time being.
I know you've done Peter. Is this like a nominate thing so I can nominate someone? I think I think there are so many people I'd love to hear, just because I'd love to hear the chat, and hear those people's voices again. It would be amazing if you could interview Ivana Primorak would be cool.
Okay.
Have you interviewed Rick yet?
I haven't.
Rick
I haven't, but he is on the list. Do not worry.
Yeah.
As much as he'll probably hate me saying that, but Rick, I'm coming for you.
That would be amazing. Also, it would be really cool to kind of hear from trainees and juniors and hear what their side of things now is.
I agree.
And yes.
So working in this industry, Flora, what do you find to be the pros and cons of doing hair and makeup?
Oh my gosh. I would say that for every pro, there is a flip side of the con to it. So it's definitely yin and yang. So the travel is amazing. The places you see are amazing. Locations we get to go to that are often restricted to other people. Buildings opened up in London that usually you wouldn't be able to see, and like national parks opened up, and you see a completely different side to the whole world. And often as well, you see it at really antisocial times. So like on Jupiter Ascending, we saw the Natural History Museum, but at night, so for the whole night. and for a week, I think we shot there. And it was amazing, like walking past that dinosaur in the Natural History Museum in London, and there's no one else there. That's a kind of like, wow. And the locations you travel to, like on The Hobbit, that kind of 8-week, 2 months that we all traveled around and like flew into places by helicopter. And so, and also new people. So you're changing crew every 3, 4, 5, 6 months. But at the same time, in every crew, the more you've been doing it, you see familiar faces. So it's not so alien. So it feels a bit like a family. Those are all huge positives. And every film is different. So you might be doing a sci-fi followed by a 1940s, followed by a horror movie. So you're creative, you're constantly kept on the back foot and like being creative with new things. That I think is amazing, and learning new things. But on the flip side, there's so little stability. It's definitely not an industry for people who need or require any form of stability in their life, which I think that is, I think that's a big con. Like from everything from, financially, it's very unstable. You don't know where your next paycheck's coming from. You don't know where you're going to be. And the travel is amazing, but, I don't want this to sound dicky, but living out of a hotel for 2 months does get really, really tedious, and the homesickness and kind of missing out on friends' weddings and, your family time. And it's you definitely commit your life to each film, which I understand. It would be great if a little bit more perspective could be brought into it, in terms of kind of not, if someone says they've got a wedding to go to, then let them go to the wedding. It's the end of the world. It's not saving lives. Exactly. We're not saving lives, but I feel like that often that is, that might be said, but people are really scared to rock the boat, because then that brings up whole financial stability thing. Everyone's replaceable. So, and no one has a leg to stand on in terms of, you could be there 1 minute, gone the next, and you don't have a kind of, legal side to back you up. So I think I think if you can get used to the instability of the industry, then it's incredible. Pros and cons.
That's awesome. But thank you for chatting with me, Flora. It's been great to catch up.
Thank you so much. It's so good to hear from you.
For links to see more of Flora's work, go to our Instagram at The Last Looks Podcast, or in our episode notes at www.thelastlookspodcast.com. The Last Looks Podcast would like to thank Brett Stanley and Sabrina Castro. The song Fun Time by DJ Quads. Thanks for listening. Until next time.
That's a wrap, people.